Here's the current cooling setup on the Altezza. So this is all the old stuff that came out of it. So what we need to do is cut these off and run the pipe straight to there. Same as this one, cut it off and weld it straight to there. There'll be a 90 coming out obviously, down to there. So I want to keep this PWR core. Hopefully I don't have to make new end tanks for it. As for the radiator, if we can't get it to work with these twisted around that way, or just aesthetically doesn't look good, or make a whole new radiator from scratch. What else we're going to be doing is making 2 oil coolers down here. And also I'll be getting rid of that crash bar because it won't be a road legal car anymore. Not planning on getting it on the road, well, legal wise. And yeah, might try and move the intercooler forward, and I'll make a mount somehow to mount the oil coolers because it'll be quite big. It's been a while since we've worked on the Altezza. I basically haven't had this shed since December, so basically 4 months I haven't been able to touch it. So anyhow, the shed's back in order and it's clear, and now we can use it again. So I was just looking at this intercooler setup and thinking how much wasted space is in the front. Reason being is, back in the days, you know, as a kid you don't really think much about aesthetics or anything. You just want things to work, you want things to go, so you can go and burn some tyres. So as you can see, I just ran some ugly little brackets from here straight to the intercooler. So what I'll end up doing is making a tubular section through there, and it'll look nicer. We can bring the intercooler hard up against the bonnet latch support, and we can mount directly off the intercooler, and it'll give us a lot more room for the new radiator going in. Now that we've taken the panel out, we can see where our clearance issues are. We're hitting this part here. So what I need to do is, as you can see where the intercooler is going, I need to cut that out, cut both sides out. And the next issue is, once we bring it forward, it'll end up sitting up on this part here, which will make the intercooler too high and it'll hit the bonnet. So next thing we need to do now is cut that section there out as well, run a bit of tube down there, coming back up this way, and we can mount the lower half of the intercooler and the radiator both off that support tube down the bottom. And since we'll remove that crash bar there, what we end up doing is running a bit of tubular section through the front as well, mounting our 2 oil coolers off there. Here's all the ugly bits out. Can't wait to see the back side of this panel here. It's always bugged me in the car. You can have a look at it, see it's all dented and yuck. And it's probably the first thing your eye sees when you open the bonnet. But anyhow, when I sold this car, they obviously put a new radiator in, and that's how they mounted it. A bracket on a bracket. Super old school. So check that out. Now we've got ample room in the front, ready for a bit of tube work. First thing I need to do is drill these out. So drill the spot welds out, get rid of this part in here. And then we'll just run a nice clean lower tube first. And once all that's done, we can mount the radiator and intercooler, just have it sitting in there, and then we'll make the top half to suit. But as you can see, we've got heaps of room up in here now. I should have done this to start with. Would have even made, like, mounting the wastegates and building the manifold would have been a lot quicker. But nonetheless, we're out. Now we can start fabricating. We set the bumper and the headlights on there just to quickly map out in my head where things are going to go. So previously, as we've seen that panel that we cut out, that intercooler used to sit behind it. So now we've got heaps of room to come up to the front. I just want to see roughly just by eye how far up we can bring the intercooler. And I thought of a different way I'm going to be mounting it. So as I said before, I was going to mount that off the bottom there, but it'll probably look a little bit ugly, so I'll just cut them off clean. I'll make some square plates up for there, and this will be a 2-into-1 combo. So mounting it off this point here, I'll obviously just run a bar that'll go across there, out the side here, that'll hold the oil coolers, and you won't see it because it's hidden behind this part of the bumper, so that's why I thought I'd better throw the bumper on and see how we can hide stuff. So that'll hide that, and then I might come off down the bottom here, so it's still hidden behind the bumper, back up and around, and then that way there we can mount the lower half of the intercooler and the radiator. Next step is to cut the intercooler inlet and outlets off, and then we can start sort of putting it into its position and start fabricating from there. It's been a while, and we were sitting with the Altezza currently. We finally got a bonnet on it, so like a simple thing like having the bonnet on it now has just been a huge milestone. So when we first got this car, we had a bit of an accident as such, and the old bonnet went flying up, and it wasn't latched down properly, flew up, broke the windscreen, dented the roof obviously. And the worst thing was when I had to change the hinges, like basically the bottom wouldn't go back down, and it bent all up where the hinges mount underneath the guards there. So I had to get the porta power out there, straighten it up as best I could. So it's probably about 1 or 2 mil off, but I think we can bend it around and get it sitting nicely. So next update is just the car in general. So what we're doing here, it's when I do a project, whether it be a car or a bike, usually I have a good vision start to finish and I'll stick with it. Whereas this case we've seen last year, we're waiting for parts for about 6 or so months, and during that time period you always have new ideas and think of new ways to do things. So this car's evolved from just using the old turbo to upgrading the turbo, and I'll end up rebuilding the motor. Doesn't need it, but it's just gone all out now. So what we're going to be doing now as well, we're collecting a bit of engineering gear on the side so we can start the fabrication side. And like, this is just a good example of what's happening. So now I wanted to clean all this up, so we're going to go for electric water pump, electric power steering pump, and that should clean this whole front end up, and we'll side mount the alternator down there. Got a new 120 amp alternator to go on it. So with that in mind, this will be all clean in the front now, because I'm going to do a hidden electric water pump as well, so you won't see that. It'll look like it's just 2 lines going from the block to the radiator. You actually see where the water pump is. So I thought, well, you can't make a motor look that good, and then the rest of the engine bay's got all the looms, so I never planned on deluming it or anything. So now, yeah, it's just gone too far, so now we'll be deluming it all. I'll get rid of the ABS solely for the aesthetics, and it should look really clean. If I knew I was going to go this far on an Altezza, obviously, like, I don't think anyone would go this far. I should have done it onto a Mazda body, but I brought so many parts that are specific for the Altezza, you couldn't sell them second hand for any great value. So it's just like the brake kit. Like, I've got a massive brake kit for it, and you'd be lucky to get $1,500 for it, and what it costs, double that nearly. It's just, like, we're trying to sell off all these specific parts for the car, even down to the bumper. So I'm just gonna have to run with it. I think it'll be her little car to have a drift around in. And one day when we get a bit of money aside, I'll have to build me not a competitive drift car, but like a car that can sort of handle how I'd like to drive it, RX-8, or even better to be a Betty. Be pretty cool. So what we'll be doing now, as I said, we'll be deluming it all, get rid of all of that, all the ABS, and yeah. Also, big problem with the turbo. It's about 2 sizes too big than what I thought I was getting. So unless I can sell that turbo, I'll just have to run with it, I guess. I don't want to keep buying turbos for it and just wasting money. So yeah, that's basically it. So we'll clean this front up and it should look pretty good. Here we have the side mount dummy fitted, as you can see. It looks way more cleaner. I love it when you can see all the block. So we've got obviously the alternator there, got a little adapter there for the water pump fittings. I love how you can see all in the block there. It just looks so much better. And now we can get rid of those 2 tabs there on the front plate, whack them off. As for that ugly oil filler neck there, so I've got a dash fitting that's going in there, and then we're going to be running a dash, I think it was a 16 I've got, to go up into the catch can up there. So that was the little breather, that little tiny thing there was the breather for the last setup. So it'll be real functional, just be a hose from there straight up there, so it'll be a purposeful filler as well as a catch can at the same time, and we'll baffle it up. So now that it's all exposed, looking really nice and clean, next thing I'm not happy with, I didn't consider this, is the throttle body. Like all the bracketry and stuff like that just looks really messy now. So I wanted to go drive by wire solely for the aesthetics. It's a expensive little way to go about things, but yeah, I'm not too sure if I can handle having all this ugly mess now. You won't need all of that. All that'll be gone, get rid of that. A couple other brackets we can get rid of too on the manifold. So all in all, I think if we go drive by wire, it's going to look really tidy and sharp.